If you're new to our channel, don't forget to hit the subscribe button.
We're going to go over less common garden growing methods. Now, we're all familiar, many of us are, with ground garden, container garden, raised bed gardening. Okay, that's your big three, I guess, if you're going to indicate a category and put them in a numeral order there. So we're going to go over 6 other types of gardening methods that you may or may not have heard before. One is the straw bale garden method.
Yeah, we do a talk on straw bale garden method. It's a great method, no matter where you are. So this is something that you can easily do on a patio, porch, or deck.
You don't have to have a ground.
You don't have to have a ground. Say your backyard is occupied with a lot of other things. You could do this like in a driveway or just a corner of the yard.
Or you have toxic soil.
Something like that. So this is a good alternative to growing in the ground. But also, sometimes people don't want to invest in raised beds. Maybe they don't want to haul the soil in, things like that. So this is another alternative to that. And it's a container garden.
It's a container garden. So the basic premise here is the straw bale is typically about 30 to 36 inches long by 15 inches wide, and you put it on its edge, and this is the byproduct of the grain industry. This is wheat stubble, the stalk, oat stalk, barley stalk, that type of material that's compressed into a bale that you can, in a conditioning process, create a container. Internally, the soil will break, the straw will break down and feed the plant. It turns into a soil medium, and the plant grows into the bale, and it works very well. We've done it a number of years. We have found phenomenal success in growing butternut squash, spaghetti squash, watermelon, cantaloupe, those type of plants.
And I think the biggest thing here is that you have to follow the conditioning process, and that's the important part. And you can get Joel's book, Growing a Straw Bale Garden. I'm sure you can find information online. You can get it from your local library.
Our website
has it. But the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com. But conditioning the bale is a key proponent here, because you can't just go put plants in a regular straw bale. You have to condition it so that the insides break down and it becomes that humus for it to grow.
Yeah, if you don't condition correctly, the microbes in the bale will feed off the plant that you're growing and continue to kill the plant until it satisfies the need of food for those microbes. So that's what.
And the reason why we're saying this is because we made that mistake. We've seen articles where people are like, "Oh, don't try straw bale growing; it doesn't work." But no, it does work. It's very successful. We have people that come to our talks and tell us that. People that come up to Joel and tell him that it's very successful, but you have to do the conditioning.
Yeah, it's like trying to make a strawberry pie without strawberries or a pie pan. If you don't do the instructions or follow the instructions right,
then you just have the crust.
The end result is not favorable to you.
Right. So let's move on to hydroponic, aquaponic. This is becoming more well known, I would say. People don't necessarily know what it is, but they may have heard these words before. So the first one would be aquaponic, and that is when you're growing plants in water. Essentially, you're floating over water, and the roots are suspended in the water, and then you use a fish, usually a tilapia or something like that, and they fertilize the water with their waste.
For aquaponics.
Yeah. Yep. So that's aquaponics, and so this is something that you could try on a small scale. It's also done in, I don't know if you necessarily want that in your house, but if you go to the plants, if you go to the pet store, you'll see betta fish that can be in a little tank, and then you put a plant above them. This is a very simple passive aquaponic process. Then there's our hydroponic process.
Yeah, that was aquaponics. Hydroponic, aquaponics is the fish waste feeding the plants. Hydroponics is you're adding a nutrient supplement into the water, whether it's pumped through the roots or the roots are stagnant in it, and it can be more of an organic or inorganic process based on what information you are reading on that. But there's no fish involved in the hydroponics aspect of it.
And we've done this. It's a very simple system. We grew beans. We grew lettuce.
Lettuce worked very well.
Lettuce works really well. So
you're not using soil as a medium. You're using clay pellets as a medium. They absorb the water, and the water is funneled through the clay pellets in order for the roots to uptake the nutrients in which you provide into the water, and you do have to keep track of the pH level in the water in order to keep the plant healthy through the growing process.
Right. So that's that. Then there's Hugelkultur. Hugelkultur.
Hugelkultur.
And this is a way of growing on, you mound over, you take like a log, an old log.
Logs, limbs,
whatever, and you mound dirt over it, or soil over it, and as the soil breaks down, it feeds the plants. And that's kind of how it goes.
And you can do this in a hill. Other people in more urban settings will do this. They'll create a raised bed of 2 to 3 foot in height, put rotting logs in the bottom of it, put the soil on top of it. And what occurs is as those logs break down, they do two things. One, they feed the soil. And secondly, they absorb the moisture and release the moisture into the soil to actually act like a sponge, essentially, releasing the water into the soil mound or bed, and keeping the plants hydrated. Right. Internal self-watering system type of situation.
So as we talk about Hugelkultur, let's move back to Eden, which is similar but not similar in a way. So because it involves wood, I guess,
wood chips.
Wood chips. Yeah. So basically, at this point, what you would do is you would take wood chips, you find an area, you typically lay down newspaper and the wood chips on top. It takes time to break down, but then you have this, because of the wood chips that make friends with the soil and break down, you have this really nice growing medium, and it's very weed free.
Yeah, there's the Back to Eden Garden movie. The misconception that people have on this particular method is we put wood chips down and we grow in the wood chips. That is not the case. The wood chips are feeding the soil and breaking down and creating a mulch. You move back the wood chips after a period of time that you've allowed the soil to be nutrient filled by the breakdown of the wood chips. You plant in the soil and you bring the wood chips back around as a mulch. If done correctly, like we talked about the straw bale garden method, it does work really, really well and almost eliminates any need for weeding whatsoever.
And with this being said, something like Hugelkultur, Back to Eden, those are more of a permaculture method where you are intending to plant there for years and years. This is not something that if you move from apartment to apartment or whatever, or house to house, maybe you have to move for work a lot. These are more of like a permanent situation. Straw bale gardening, you can easily do anywhere, move around, even hydroponic, aquaponic. The next one we have is foodscaping or edible landscaping. That can be like semi-permanent, just kind of depending on what you want to do. But what that involves is growing edible items within your landscape to enhance your landscape. So say you have a couple rose bushes and you want to grow some chives or onions because you like the pretty greenery that it allows, kind of like that.
Or you're in a situation,
or like chard.
You're in a situation where you can't legally or based on your conditions have a garden, but you have flower beds in which you can plant leeks, onions, chard, throw a tomato in there. Something of it's hiding one plant around other plants to kind of maximize your space, but also get something out of it. Well,
especially like kale is
another one. Yeah, another beautiful.
It's core gardening.
Yeah.
So core gardening is basically you take an area of your either raised bed or a berm or something like that. You put newspaper in the middle. You like newspaper, straw or something. And
you dig a trench and you plant that in. You bury that in the trench. You cover it back over. It simulates a more quicker Hugelkultur type of atmosphere. That straw or that shredded paper, newspaper, whatever, absorbs water and then releases it back into. Straw is the ideal material to utilize for this particular method. Like a sponge, and it releases back. So you can do this with your raised bed or your ground garden right now. It's not a whole lot of work that has to be done with it.
For more information, please visit thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com.